Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe back, and I'm going to do my weekly reading update for Sunday, February 17th, 2019. So, this was a really weird reading week for me. I actually read a lot, page count-wise, which I'm really surprised about, considering how much overtime I did this week. But I think it's because I use it as kind of an escape. And then I would get tired and then I'd watch BookTube. But it was like more of, I read a lot during work on my breaks than I normally do. I let myself actually have my breaks because I was so busy and people were bothering me all day. So I did have a couple of short lunches though, but yeah, here or there. The point is that I read a lot of stuff. I got through a lot of different kinds of things, and I also DNF'd 3 books. It was a weird week. It was a weird reading week, and I just, it's kind of going off of what, if you guys saw my discussion video about my library, I am trying to be a little bit more thinking about what I'm reading, as in, I have a lot of books. I should really read my books, and I'm trying things that maybe I don't know if I'm going to like or not, and I'm just like trying to get through them and decide, am I going to keep that or get rid of that? And I still think I'm going to do a discussion video about DNFing because I'm tracking my DNFing this year a lot closer than I have in the past, and actually writing down every time I start a book and then decide I don't want to read it and giving explanations why. And I want to try to see, I came up with a really good reason why some books I don't get along with, which I'll explain in a little bit. So let's just go through the books that some of the books that I finished, and the ones that I DNF'd, and the ones I'm in the middle of, and then what I think I'm going to read in the next week. So I did finish The Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings on Sunday. I was already halfway through this. This is the first book in the Belgariad series. Again, this is like a 10-book, there's a second set of books, the Malarians as well on this, and a couple of side books. But this series is just, to me, is a very classic, epic fantasy of its time. It was written in, this one was written in 1982. And I really enjoy this. I love the characters. Again, it has the whole young kid who's kind of like, things are going, he's getting pulled along in this, all this crazy stuff that's going on. And those are, sometimes they can be my favorite. It matters on how it goes. And it won't be until later there's a book where he's pretty much a teenager and he's driving me crazy. But this one's still a good one. He's pretty young here, and just becoming 14 and 15 and getting stuff into things he shouldn't. Anyway, so the best thing about this is the characters. I love the characters in here. They are characters I still think about over years. Again, I first read this when I was 14 when my cousin gave me copies of the first 5, and because he was leaving college, and so he gave a lot of books to me. I have a lot of horror, Stephen King and Dean Koontz from him as well as Necroscope by Brian Lumley, and then also this series. So anyway, he helped a lot with the way my reading went in my high school years, but totally loved this book. Again, as a reread. I think I read it every 10 years. So I figure I'm going to probably read through the series, at least the first 5 books. So the next 4 I'll probably read sometime this year. And then I feel the need to go back to that world, which is, it was really fun. So I really enjoyed that. So then after that, I picked up a library book, The Bus on Thursday by Shirley Barrett. Sorry. So this is the book that I did keep from the library. I returned everything else this week. But I kept this only because I want to talk about it, and I just want to show it. I probably didn't have to. This was a book that I'd seen on Simon Savidge's channel like a couple of months ago. I think he mentioned it. And it was an Australian book. So I was really interested because I have been there a couple times because one of my best friends lives there. So I thought, oh, I want to read that. And it was like a cross between Bridget Jones, The Shining, and Twin Peaks is what I hear. So I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds kind of like all my kinds of things. I read Bridget Jones back in the day, but, you know, again, I hated this. So I did, this is one of my DNFs. I got to page 81, and I go, no more. We are done. So this is a lot like the Bridget Jones. I love the beginning. And it very much is a woman who's going through cancer treatments and, you know, finding out she has breast cancer, and then And she's in her early 30s, so it's a little, she feels it's a little early, and her friends don't understand because she's going through all this. But you just, she started to drive me nuts. So I pushed myself through the whole, that part, the beginning part was good. I mean, it was interesting. Her humor was hilarious. I really liked that. But then you start hearing about some of her friends and some of her interactions with her friends, and I just got mad at her because I'm like, why would you, like, well, first of all, are those really your friends? They're like, I don't know, they were just rude. They were mean back and forth between them. And then, you know, then she gets this job out in the middle of nowhere, and she takes it because she's pretty much now through her cancer treatment. She's in remission, I think, at this point, or, you know, they're waiting to see. And so she takes this job out, it sounds like, in the mountains. I can't remember where exactly, but, I blocked it out anyway. But she takes this class, or takes this over this small school in this rural town, because their teacher just suddenly disappeared and nobody knows what happened to her. So there is a mystery in here, and I'm sure it develops. But by page 80, I was so mad at this book that I don't care anymore. There was some really cool weird stuff, and you're kind of like, what the heck is going on? But it was her that bothered me, and she grated on me more and more because she was just so judgmental of everybody, and it just drove me crazy. And you know, I have a problem, I think, with unlikable characters, and I'm coming to realize that a lot, that if I cannot get past things that they think or say or do, like, too far. You're like, there's certain things they'll do once in a while. Everybody does like a weird bad thing, everybody, or, you know, says something or does something, and one little thing is not going to set me off. But multiple times of things that she thought in her head or did, and I'm like, I got tired, and it wasn't enough. The mystery, which I'm thinking is going to get deeper, because there was some really weird stuff in there. And I did just see a review of this on Harriet Rosie's channel, and I'll try to link that video down below. But she did just a recent some thriller, what do you call it? Recommendations, and she explains it exactly. The things that I hated, she liked. Anyway, so she's a really good option if you still want to read or try that. I would look at her video. It was interesting, but I said, I was not happy. I was really wanting to read that. I really found the premise interesting, and I really liked, as I said, the beginning was funny. I really, really enjoyed that, but I got so mad by the end. Okay, so let's see here. I'm probably not going to find this here. Nope, I'm not going to. What? How do you guys find your... Oh, there we go. Okay, so, sorry. So then, so I was reading that, and I was just like, I don't know what to read next. So I reverted to my Kindle. At the time I was at work, and I go, I gotta read something. So I pulled this up on my, and this is not gonna work. No, it never does. Okay, so I can't do the whole fixture. I don't know how people do that on the freaking iPad, but I read A Night to Surrender by Tessa Dare. So again, it was coming up to Valentine's Day. I'm not a big Valentine's Day person, actually. I'm so the opposite. I don't like the holiday. I think it's just arbitrary, and I don't like it. Anyway, so this is a historical romance that has to do with Spindle Cove, and this little area where a lot of spinsters or women who've had kind of sketchy pasts go there. Their families send them there to kind of chill out between London seasons. So they come there during the summer. And this follows Susanna, who is actually lives there. Her father is kind of a local lord, and she's there, and the militia come to kind of set up a local one because they're right across from, they're on the coastline across from France. So, you know, it's during the Napoleonic time, so I guess this is Regency. Anyway, it was just a cute story. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't, you know, like the best thing, but with her, she has good humor. So I really like her books. I've read the Castle Ever After series, but the fourth book in that series, I can't read until I read up to, on the Spindle Cove ones, up till 5 or something. So there's a book that crosses over both series, but I can't read it yet, and so I have to read this series. So I started this. This is book number 1. So I really enjoyed this, and I'm glad I read that. It just, you know, it didn't take me, it took me, you know, a day and a half or whatever. It was a really, really quick read. And then, well, this is going to be really teeny, but the next book I read, or next ebook I read, was Rolling in the Deep by Mira Grant. This is the novella that came before Into the Drowning Deep, and I'm glad I read it afterwards. If I had read this before, I don't know if I would have read the novel. So I really, really enjoyed this short novella, but I would, even though it actually comes before the book, I would read this after. I think it gives too much away. I had more fun not knowing when I read the book. So again, Mira Grant is Shauna McGuire. This is her other thing. But again, as I said, Rolling in Deep was really fun. Again, has to do with the ship that goes out there the first time to make the mockumentary about mermaids in the Mariana Trench and how it all goes wrong. And I did like it. Again, it's too short for me because it was, I mean, it was 120 pages, but I always want more. So I'm glad that there's a novel that deals with later and more characters and stuff. I really enjoyed that book. I read that a couple weeks ago. So, but I would recommend reading this, but I would wait till after you read the novel. But that's just my thing. Anyway, so I read those, and then what was that I read? I thought I read one. Oh, I did read one more. So sorry, this whole Kindle thing. I'm not good at this. Anyway, so then I picked up the next Spindle Cove next one. It was the novella. It's, you know, Once Upon a Winter's Eve. So this is like just about a little over 100 pages. And this has to do with one of the women who is there staying. And this guy comes in during their Christmas ball. This guy comes and kind of lands at her feet, and he's speaking in a language nobody knows what he's saying. And it is actually a cute little story. I did not like this as much as the novel, but it was still just kind of a cute little intermission, and it was, you know, it was a good little romance, little, you know, historical romance. I liked it overall. I mean, it's not going to be a favorite or anything, but, you know, it was good. I enjoyed that. So, but look at me using my ebooks, or reading my ebooks instead of just buying them. That was pretty cool. So the next time I probably read an ebook is probably going to be book number 2. I don't remember what it's called, A Week to be Wicked or something like that. Anyway, but so it'll be book 2 in the Spindle Cove, but I'll get to that at some point. Probably not right away, because I just read a couple romances. So anyway, so speaking of romances, I decided to try to read some of the stuff that I had. It was still Valentine's Day. So I did finally pick up A Princess in Theory by Alicia Cole. This is the first book in the Reluctant Royals series, but I didn't get very far. So unfortunately for me, this is a DNF, but do not take that as this is a bad book or bad written or anything. I made a discovery this week. I do not like contemporary romances. I have only a few on my shelf by certain authors. One author, I've read more of her contemporaries than anybody else, which is Maya Banks, but nobody else has really, like, I don't read contemporary romances, and I actually don't like a lot of contemporary fiction. I found that most of the books that I buy that have any contemporary kind of part to them have a historical element. They go, like, there's dual timelines, or it's something that's from the 70s or the 80s, like it's a different time period. I don't do nowadays, and I don't like it. And I think I found the reason why is when I do like contemporary or stuff that's supposed to be kind of nowadays stuff, I like stuff with a paranormal or urban fantasy or fantasy kind of, there's something else. And as I said, the historical dual timeline works for me because there's dual timelines. There's something about books contemporary I just don't like. So as much as, the book was fine. I mean, as I said, I only read like 40 pages, but I found, I'm like, I don't want to read about people nowadays that are just doing relationship stuff. I don't care. And that might be because I'm eternally single, but the point is, it really is, I think it's because it doesn't have the elements that I like when I have romance. Most of my favorite romances are paranormal romances or historical romances. I have a huge collection of historical that I really like. So it's kind of funny because, again, I loved the Tessa Dare stuff because it was historical, and so I got those elements, even though it was, you know, it's a romance story. It worked better for me than a contemporary. So unfortunately, this is not going to work for me. I'm not going to be buying any more contemporary romances, or I'm going to be very careful about what literary fiction I pick up as well right now, because I'm finding that I am really attracted to historical stuff, but not to anything that's nowadays. So that is kind of an interesting thing that I just found out about myself. I mean, I kind of knew it, but I didn't quite know it was to that extent until I started reading that, and I realized what was bothering me. And I really can't suspend my disbelief when it's a contemporary. There's something about that. Maybe it's because it's supposed to be, you know, real world, that I don't believe it at all. Like when there's a fantasy element or a historical, you know, context to it, it's different. I can suspend disbelief to enjoy the story a lot more. So I don't know. Maybe if you guys want to hear me talk about that more, but I'm really kind of stunned that I found out that this is true. And I have a couple of books that are contemporaries that have been sitting on my shelf for years, and I don't read them. And now I kind of know why. So I might be getting rid of some of those books. Anyway, so that was my second DNF. And it's not its fault. That is all me. Completely all me. But I don't want to read it, so I'm not going to. And then I DNF'd Black Wings by Christina Henry. And again, this is not because of writing style or even most of the premise, but it just, there's a few little things that were happening in here that I did not enjoy. And some of the, and again, you have to understand that I write urban fantasies, and I have read many, many over the years. And so there's certain tropes and certain things that happen that I get kind of a little annoyed at, because again, I just know the genre pretty well. And I think it's because it was starting to go in a direction I did not expect. And in some ways that should be good, but all it did was kind of annoy me. And so it's not its fault either. I think it really is. Right now, I was thinking it was something else than it was. And, but also I just, you know, I had a few things with the way the character, had, somebody die and how she dealt with that. Or didn't deal with that. And it bothered me actually a lot. And that's just me. Again, it's a me thing. So I'm not saying this is bad. I think other people will really enjoy this series. I still think Christina Henry's a great writer. I love some of her other stuff. This is not the series for me. So I will be getting rid of this and not continuing that series. So because I was disappointed with that one, I decided to pick up the book I really wanted to read, which I should have picked up anyway. And that's the second book in the Other series by Anne Bishop. This is Murder of Crows. I've been looking forward to picking up another one of these. Again, I read Written and Read. It was my only 5-star read so far this year. Oh well. Well, no, I guess it's my second. But it was my first one that I had this year. But so this is book 2 in the series, so it's still following Meg and Simon and the people in the courtyard and then the humans that live around all the others. And again, shifters, blood prophets, you know, it's like a cop drama sometimes. And it's a great urban fantasy. I think it's a great twist on world history, you know, like an alternate history one where, you know, shifters have been there the whole time and they pretty much rule most of the land. And humans only have certain sections of it. And this is kind of showing the world a little bit more by showing more about what's going on over in Europe. And I think that's kind of cool. I mean, not showing it, we're just hearing about it right now. So, but I think it's great that we're getting more of the world, and I'm kind of excited about it. So as I said, I've read 142 pages of this, so I'm pretty hoping to knock this out between today and maybe Monday. I don't think it'll take me very long because I'm really, really enjoying this book. So, and again, this is the kind of urban fantasy, like I dove right into this, but again, it just depends on how you feel. I am continuing to read Zinky Boys. Did I start this before? I guess maybe I started this on, oh well, you got maybe on Sunday. So I don't know. This is one of my TBR picks. So this is by Slavanya Alekovic, and again, she's the one who wrote Chernobyl Prayer and The Womanly Face of War. And again, I really, really enjoyed both of those books, especially Chernobyl Prayer is still one of my favorite books ever. So this is again one of her earlier books. This is one written in early 1990s. This is about the Afghanistan war with Russia you know, being there in the conflict, and the soldiers that went there and their families. And it's a very, it's really a hard one for me to read because, again, it was through the 80s, so I only remember a little bits and pieces about it historically, like what I know about it, because I was pretty young, or I wasn't paying attention, or they didn't tell us a whole lot. And so I'm learning a lot of stuff like I didn't know much about it at all. And then it's just heartbreaking to hear, again, it's reminded me of The Womanly Face of War, where in that the women, you know, were shunned when they got back because they had gone and helped with the war effort in World War II. And it was kind of the same thing here. This is very much like how people, or men, were mostly men that came back from the Vietnam War, were treated by the U.S. citizens. So it's very much kind of has that feel to it, because they, you know, again, it was felt to be an unnecessary war and not really told, you know, that it was a war until later. It's very interesting. So I'm reading probably about 12, 15 pages a day. I'm not reading this very fast. I just can't. So every night I just pick it up and read a couple of sections, because again, she does it in an oral history kind of thing, where she talks about, you know, one person will just tell their story, and she doesn't really have a whole lot of her own. The writer doesn't have much of her say in there. There's only a few little sections of her, but mostly it's just them telling their story. She just lets them talk, and it's so much more powerful that way, I think. I mean, that's why I've loved all of her books, and after this one, I think I only have one more left that's out. But I will probably get to that later in the year. If not Nonfiction November, I'll be before that. So anyway, I'm plowing through that, and I'm instead of just reading a little bit of that here and there. Okay, I forgot to I don't have a picture, but everybody knows about Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. I did complete that on Wednesday to make sure it got back to the library on Thursday. It took me 3 weeks to read or listen to the whole thing. It was that long. Or it was pretty long in my cart, because again, I couldn't speed it up because they were audio discs. So, oh well. I mean, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I did cry a few times during it, just because I felt for her, and it's so very powerful with her own, her talking about stuff and what she went through, and they all went through and stuff. And it was, I found it very powerful. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's a book I would read or listen to again, but I really enjoyed the experience, and I'm glad I did it. Again, I'm not really big on political things like memoirs and things like that, but I do want to start my president's project, where I'm going to start reading a book about all the presidents. Of course, I'm going to start with Washington, and I have read other here and there, but there's a lot of presidents that I don't know anything about and their administration. So I'm going to try to get more historical background on some politics stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, but I really liked Michelle Obama's book. I think it was really well done. Again, I read about memoirs recently, so I know she did everything that I think Mary Carr would want an author to do when they're telling their story. And she told what she wanted to tell, and she told, I think she told enough. I know that there's been some people wanted more on certain things, and I get that, except that's her life, and I don't think we can ask for any more than she gave us already. She gave it quite a bit. So that was just my opinion, though. But I really enjoyed that, and I would recommend that. I would recommend it on audio. It was really, really powerful that way. So just letting you know. So, okay, so those are all the books I finished and that I'm kind of in the middle of. So I'm just going to kind of mention the books that I think I'm going to pick up this week really quickly, because I've talked way too much to you guys. So this week I'm hoping to pick up Manners and Mutiny. This is the 4th book in the Finishing School series by Gail Carriger. This takes place before the Solace, or the Parasol Protectorate series. I read 3 of the books of this, and again, this is YA, so it's not something I gravitate towards, but I want to know what happens, because end of book 3 was quite a cliffhanger. I mean, or, you know, I want to know what happens next, and I've waited like 3 years to read this. I think we said it was pretty long. Anyway, they're doing a read-along on her, all of her social media. Like, they're doing all of her books in the timeline order, and so I have not finished this, so they're doing this in the next 2 weeks, starting on Monday. So I thought I wanted to try to get it done by the end of the month, and then the book after That's a novella that I never read called, I think, Poison or Protect, and I never read that. So I'm going to read, as I said, I'm going to read the ones that I've never read as we go through them. And if I want to pick up some of the ones to reread that year, during the year, I will. I will start listening tomorrow to Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I listened to the first like 14 pages. I have it on audio on my phone. So, and the book's from the library just to track pages. But I didn't get very far, and it's not a very big book. It's about 170 pages. So I figure I'll listen to this during the week. I should get most of it done because I think it's only like a 7-hour audiobook. But I don't know. I've never read anything by James Baldwin. This is my first dip. And so far I was interested. I didn't know really what was going on yet. So we'll see how that goes. But I have that gonna have that in my car. And then books I want to pick up before the end of the month, because I already started them, is like, one is Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell. I put it down early in the month because I just was not able to focus. So I'm hoping that after I finish up a couple of books that I have, as well as read Manners and Mutiny, then this might be the next book I pick up, because I'm doing the read along with Elizabeth Gaskell read along on Instagram. And I would really like at least to read one book of hers this year. And I only got to 54 pages. And I was really enjoying it. It was just, I was so busy at work that I couldn't concentrate on it. And that's why I kind of switched it up and went to more fun stuff and lighter reading for me. And then I also still want to pick up Kinto. Oh, I can't say her name. Anyway, so this is an African story about Kinto and his family from generations. It starts like in 1750 and then moves on in every generation. And I'm reading this because it's the Mel's Bookland Adventures. It's her read around the world pick for this month. So I'm not sure I'm going to get it done by the end of February. I'd like to, though, or at least try. I did read a couple of chapters. Yeah, I only got to page 16. So one night, and then I was reading a lot of other stuff. So I'm hoping to get back to this and get a better chunk. It also matches up with hers and Victoria's or Alexandria Eve's reading through the ages for the Africa pre-1800s. So I do want to pick this up for that as well, because again, so I want to hopefully get to that. So I don't know a whole lot about it yet. I didn't get very far. And then if my brain completely melts down, we all know I'm probably going to pick up book number 2 of the Belgariad, Queen of Sorcery by David Evans, but Eddings. But we'll see what happens. I don't think that's going to happen this week, but it's more of a, if I can't focus on anything, or I'll be picking up the second one in the Others series, because I love Murder of Crows so far. I just love that series. That series I'm going to be binging here pretty soon. Anyway, so that is all the books. I talked way too long. Sorry about that, guys. I hope you guys made it to the end. Anyway, how is your guys' reading going? As I said, I've had a very, very weird week. A lot of DNFs, a lot of, but still a lot of good books. I really have enjoyed a lot of my reading as well. So in between the DNFs. And I learned I do not like contemporary romances. Good to know. And I think mostly contemporary anything at this point. But we'll see what happens. So anyway, I hope you guys had a great week. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.